What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Armchair Producers, episode 55. I am one of your hosts, George Terran, alongside the man, the myth, the effervescent legend, Mr. Travis Croft. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. Soon to be unemployed. That always improves my mood, as long-termers will know. I am a fan of doing nothing, waking up at 10 o'clock and sitting around my apartment in my underpants all day throwing stubbies at passers-by.
Excellent. I'm guessing, I would imagine that you've not spoken of it much. Playing some more Borderlands 3?
I have played some Borderlands 3. I don't know if I'm going to be playing a lot more, though. I finally got around to finishing it.
Oh, okay. Not feeling much drive to come back?
Sorry?
I said not much drive to go back?
Well, we might as well just crack into it, because we are recording quite late here, and I do have one last day to pretend I'm at work for tomorrow. I actually rage quit Borderlands 3 just before I went to the US in October. Full on, through controller, across the room, rage quit.
Oh. What spurred that on?
A particular boss battle in the game, and I can't remember, the Agonizer 9000, I think it's called.
Okay.
And it's just one of those. You ever play a video game where the difficulty curve sort of goes sort of hockey sticks?
Oh, yes.
Like you're sort of going along here, and maybe you got a gentle curve going up, and then it just jumps.
Yeah.
Right, like 10 levels, and you're like, it's just so insanely frustrating because you haven't played any of the Borderlands games, have you?
I played about 5 minutes of Borderlands 2 on Xbox compatibility.
That would be no.
Yeah.
So
look, no one wants me to play it because otherwise I'll kill it.
Get away with. Well, it's too late now. It's already been successful.
That's fair.
You have no power here.
Somehow it'll retroactively become shit. Oh, it looks like we might be having internet problems. I am in the middle of changing over provider, so maybe the internet's not going to...
I can hear you just fine.
Ah, excellent.
So I was going to say, a lot of the bosses in Borderlands games are very bullet spongy.
Right.
So you have a lot of guns, and that's kind of the whole appeal, is you can get 500 million different types of guns.
Yeah.
And so you end up having a lot of these boss battles that can take 15, 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that's fine, because that's the kind of game it is. It's kind of an endurance test, and as much as it's a skill on occasion. Where it gets frustrating is, like, some of as you sort of go along, the attacks the boss will change. As you get their health down, they'll sort of change up there. And then again, that's not unusual. Yeah. But sometimes the leap in difficulty is so insane, and the attacks are so freaking unfair and poorly balanced that you fight a boss 4 or 5 times, you get 15 minutes in, and then end up dying. That you sort of like the insane amount of frustration. You're like, I've just put another, that's what, an hour's worth of effort into trying to beat this boss. And you end up dying in the most weak ways, because all of a sudden you are literally out of ammo for every single type of weapon you have in your arsenal. And because the battle hasn't been well designed enough to actually provide an opportunity to a little bit or enough during the actual fight to be able to sustain it and beat the boss. I mean, obviously I did beat it eventually, but only after trying for about an hour and a half the day before I went to America. The controller left my hand and flew across the room, and the Xbox was unplugged for an war and remained so for quite a deal of time.
It got that far.
It was so frustrating. one of the great mechanics in the Borderlands games is if you get knocked down, so you get you basically get shot until a point you're almost dead. You have what's called a second wind opportunity.
Right.
That means if you kill an enemy while you're knocked down, for want of a better term, you get another life. You get back up again.
Okay.
So it's a great way of sort of compensating for the fact that you may not have, like in multiplayer games, quite often you get knocked down and an ally can pick. That can happen in this game too. But if you don't have an ally, you can just kill an enemy nearby and bang, you're back into fight.
Okay.
So what boss battles will quite often do is, in addition to the big bad boss there, they'll have little minions floating around shooting at you as well. And essentially what they're there for 2 reasons. One is when you kill them, they'll drop ammo. And 2, they are there to give you a second wind opportunity. They're there, someone you can knock down within by emptying a clip into them.
Yeah.
And you get a second wind opportunity. The freaking frustrating thing about this particular boss battle in Borderlands was that his attack, that was quite often killing me, killed everybody in the arena, including his own minions.
So
those minions that are there, specifically kind of there to drop out loot, and also for you to potentially get back up by killing, were being killed by the same attack that killed you. And you're like, oh, you fucking sent it live, Gearbox. Jesus Christ.
And let me guess, there's not been a single instance where that particular kind of incident of the boss killing everything on screen in one fell swoop has happened before. So you've not had any kind of training for it. It's just suddenly, all right, that's what this is now.
You sort of see it happening, but there's not much you can do about it, right? Some of the attacks are sort of arena-wide attacks. So this is a giant robot thing who swings a giant meat cleaver at you. And you kind of got to time it to go, you either jump over the knife or duck under it. But as he gets lower in health, he changes his attack. So initially, he'll just do 2 rounds of the arena with his knife, and you have to duck under it or jump over it.
Yeah.
But later on, he actually starts, chopping up and down as he's going around. So the first couple of times you get to that point, you know that he's going to go up and down all of a sudden. And yeah, as he said, like, he just wipes out everybody in the arena. And if you just miss that jump and you get knocked, then there's no one to kill. There's no opportunity to get back up again. So I got pretty rage quitty at that point. I mean, the ridiculous thing is, this isn't bad. Probably, I'd say 2/3 of the way through the game, this boss came through. By far, the hardest boss battle in the game.
Oh, shit.
By the length of Flemington Strait. Hardest boss battle in the game. I got to the final boss. I beat it the first time I tried.
All right.
So, I mean, and I'm pretty bad at games. So that's something. It's not a particularly hard final boss. It's not a very interesting final boss. You're kind of like, is that's the final boss. Okay. It's not very exciting.
Okay.
So Borderlands 3 is a game you kind of go, yeah, that happened. It was okay. Kind of kept doing what they were doing the last couple of games well enough, I guess.
Do you think it took too long to come out?
That's possibly part of it. I don't have a particular. I mean, I don't mind. I've said before many times, I don't mind a game taking a long time as long as it's worth playing when it comes out. The game is buggy-ish, and I think we talked about it when it first came out. There are parts of it that are still broken or not very good, like the maps that sucks. Fast traveling sucks. But where I think it's really weak, and I kind of noticed this towards when I picked it up probably 2 weeks ago, and I finally beat. Isn't it always the way? You rage quit, you put it on hold for 6 weeks, you come back, and then you beat the boss that's been killing you for ages. The second time you try after 6 weeks, but it's amazing how often it happens. But when I plugged it back in, I finally beat the Agonizer 9000, which is actually voiced by Penn Jillette, by the way.
Okay.
Which is horrible with Penn Jillette, and like having to listen to him yell at me and torment me for hours, and it was kind of hard. Was he dropped the loot that dropped when I killed that boss was like so pathetic. I'm like, this can't be all the loot that he's dropped. There's got to be a secret door around here somewhere with the rest of the loot is for beating this son of a bitch. ass-kicking boss, he dropped all white weapons, which is the most common type of weapon you can get. Like, you get the common, uncommon, rare, legendary, yada, yada, yada. You'd expect, I would have thinking for a boss this hard, oh man, I'm going to at least get a legendary drop here. All white drops. Like, everything had dropped. None of it was worth picking up. All of it was significantly worse than the weapons I already had.
Oh, God.
And you're like, and that's kind of a whole thing what Borderlands is about the guns.
Yeah.
And the gear, it's about the loot. And if the loot's shit, you're like, well, I just sank how many hours into beating this son of a bitch? I wasted all of my ammo. So, and every time you die, it costs you money in game, obviously. So, like, I probably dropped $250,000 in game in dying, plus probably another 50 or 60 grand in refreshing my ammo every time I die. Because when you die, your ammo doesn't come back. You've got to buy it back. I've got plenty of in-game money, so I guess that's okay. But I'm like, I just beat this guy who was so hard, and I get white loot drop? Or what the fuck? If that was a one-off, you go, I just got unlucky. But pretty much every boss from there on in, including the final boss, I killed the final boss. It took about 25 minutes. And again, the loot drop, I won't say it was all white. The looted drop from the final boss was so... I kind of got to the point where I think I picked up 2 or 3 things. And the only reason I picked them up is because I could sell them and get some of the money back. I'm like, none of it was actually... Like, I think I got a couple of orange items, and they were crap. Orange being legendary level weapons. And I tried using them a couple of times, and I pretty much sold them straight away because they were terrible. So I've heard a few other people floating around on YouTube and stuff say, it's funny, I heard too from me, I've heard people go, oh, the legendary drops in this game are so common, it's not fun anymore, and they're crap. That doesn't happen to me. Or a number of people who've sort of said the loot, like me, have had just horrible drops, like the loot that drops is shit out, so it's not worth picking up. And so all I can say from my experience of the game now is that, like, that actually really killed the last third of the game for me. It's like, I guess, you can put up the kind of garbage being dropped throughout the first 2/3 to an extent, as long as you really start to get the good stuff towards the end.
Yeah. Do you think maybe
there's a for me? So it's.
I was just going to ask, do you think because it's random loot drops, do you think maybe you got overpowered too early in the game?
Certainly didn't feel overpowered. I guess I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm not a programmer. I don't know how it's built. Something like that. I know I've read some things about some of the things they've patched, the drops and stuff like that to sort of make them harder to get good things. I mean, if one was cynical, one might go, Gearbox is dropping less good stuff more often, less good stuff, so you play longer.
Yeah.
So when I finish the main game, you get to play True Vault Hunter mode. True Vault Hunter mode, in fact, you get to play through the game again, yay. But the difficulty's harder, and supposedly loot drops are better. I guess one could argue we're so inclined to play through the second time around through True Vault Hunter mode. That's more likely to keep you playing until the DLC drops.
Yeah.
I think it's dropping next month, maybe, if not sooner.
Okay.
So, if someone stopped playing 2 months ago and the DLC drops in December, how likely are they going to pick up a DLC? Probably less likely than someone like me who's still playing True Vault Hunter mode, because all of a sudden, wow, here's some cool new content. So that's me being cynical, but it was disappointing. It wasn't a terrible game by any stretch of imagination. Does what it does pretty well. It's still kind of fun. The story sucked. Characters sucked. You're not in any of the cutscenes. Your character isn't in any of the cutscenes. All the other, you just do stuff for other people, and when the cutscenes happen, you just watch them talk. You're not in them.
Wow, how to take the player out of the game?
The sucked. The loot drops. So sorry.
I said how to take the player out of the game, not include them in the cutscenes.
You're not the protagonist anymore. You're just watching other people do things. And when this cutscene's over, they'll go, "Hey, killer, go do this thing." and they'll hang around the ship and wait for you to come back, and you're like, oh, okay. And
That's
so
a
I mean,
shame.
it's a minor little thing, but it does sort of make you feel like towards the end of the game, you're like, hang on a sec here, I do it all for work, do it all for work, and these people go, and they go, oh
I'm
my
not the main
gosh,
character.
why am I not in any of the cutscenes? So I mean, I'm making it sound like it's really bad. I mean, it's people who might have heard me talk about it a couple of months ago. It's really not terrible. If you like the other games, you're probably going to get through it.
Mm.
But I suspect you'll end up like me going, it's okay. They could have done 6 years, 5, 6 years,
Mm.
maybe 3
Yeah.
games. You've got to fucking nail it, guys.
Yeah.
Your Gearbox, your Take-Two software, you've got all the money in the world behind you on this fucking thing.
Yeah.
And, you got access to the best of the best, everything.
Yeah.
You've got to bring it to the table, and they just didn't seem to do it this time, unfortunately. Like,
That's a shame. I can
yeah,
understand what you're saying about sort of like boss difficulty cranking up. It's a problem with a lot of games. I had the same thing with Luigi's Mansion 3. The game was lovely. Everything about it was really good. The animation, the fun storytelling, the cutscenes, everything about it, and it had a very good learning curve. As you went up the levels, the bosses got harder. You were introduced to new techniques, and you by the end of doing that level, you had mastered that new technique. And then you finally come up to the big bad boss, and it's like, okay, so none of these techniques actually really matter. They've just cranked up the difficulty of this boss just to make it feel challenging, and it certainly is challenging, but you might as well have had this boss at the very beginning, because mastering all those skills didn't actually mean anything. You didn't need to be a master of it because there's so much luck involved. And a lot of RPGs have the same problem. Like, I remember Final Fantasy VII is like, okay, we're heading for the big bad boss. What are we going to do? Basically a boss run. Okay. So this is just repeating boss fights that I've already had, but one after another, and it just becomes a gauntlet that you've got to survive and then fight the final boss. And Final Fantasy VII, it ends up ultimately coming down to just pushing button combination quicker than the computer does. And it's like, well, that's disappointing.
it's a shame, but it feels lazy. I think it's obviously, look, I guess it must be tricky because if it was easy, everyone would do it. But
Yeah.
they got it so right for the last 3 Borderland games for the most part. Every now and again, there was a boss fight you'd be just really kick your ass, but you kind of felt
fair.
like No, I never felt unfair. It always felt like the best games. I always think I think of Skyrim because like here's another RPG where I mean Bethesda, for all their shittiness these days, just kind of got it right, because every time again, I'm terrible at games. Every time I would die 2 or 3 times fighting somebody in Skyrim, I'd be like, no, I can do this. I can do this. I've just got to find the right way to do it. There's so many different ways you could approach a boss, like so many different approaches one could take. You just had to keep trying different ways, different angles of attack, different methods, different patterns, and you would get there. Whereas with Borderlands, in this instance, there's really only one way you can fight this boss. That's keep running and avoiding the attacks. And when you get 2 seconds, shoot him for a couple of seconds, and then run again and avoid the attack. So it's, I never felt like in the last 2 Borderlands games that it did that very often, at least, that you would pump the difficulty up to the point where it was incredibly frustrating. And even little things like, again, running out of ammo. So running out of ammo so often with your actual preferred weapons that, you'd have to like run around for 20 minutes using, like, he's so far away, you can't use a shotgun because it won't do enough damage. The range doesn't work. So you have to get your shotgun out, shoot minions for about 5 minutes. Hopefully they've dropped enough ammo in the meantime that you can start to pick up your assault rifle, pistol again, and shot stuff. That makes it so much more frustrating. Like, that's not my fault, right? But you're not. There's no. You search a bullet sponge, and I've wasted all my ammo, and there's no way for me to refresh even a little bit of that without taking my eye off the main game for 5 minutes.
Yeah. It becomes like a war of attrition. It's just like, okay, who's going to give in first? And that's not really, certainly
It's
for
not
me.
even fun.
Yeah,
It's like
it takes the
not
fun
fun
out.
anymore. I just want to get past this thing and get back to the regular game. And so it's disappointing for a game I was looking forward to so much. Will I play the DLC? Probably. There's not really anything else coming out anytime soon. It looks, I mean, the new Jedi game from EA apparently is okay.
Yeah.
But nothing else. I mean, in fairness, I'm going to go on a boat very soon, so I'll take the Switch and I'll probably play Untitled Goose Game and Zelda some more. But it's like it's really nothing else for me to play right at the moment that looks
Fair enough.
particularly interesting. So they're kind of set for that. I'm not about to pick up Fallout 76 or anything stupid like that. I'm not suicidal.
I don't know. You've not got a job to go, so you might decide, yeah, all right, I've got time. I can check it out.
I do have that game. It came for free with my PlayStation.
Which, have you actually been able to log into it at all?
Not since I moved house. Well, maybe once. I might have plugged it. I noticed I knocked over the Spider-Man game box this evening, so it didn't have a game in it. So Spider-Man's probably still in the PlayStation. Yeah, but 10 minutes I played the first time and thought, this isn't so good, and stopped.
Fair enough. I started a new game.
Controller. I can't get used to the controller.
I don't have too much problem jumping from one console controller to the other. I definitely prefer, my favorite is the Switch Pro controller. I really like the Xbox Pro controller. They're very similar in shape. Obviously having the X button in a different position for all different bloody consoles is stupid. But overall, they're very similar. The PlayStation 1, I just find that it's very small in my hands.
I should see if you can get. Surely you can get an Xbox controller that works for the PlayStation.
I'd imagine so.
Like
Probably have to go like a third-party thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But I started playing an online game that isn't dead. Yeah.
Wow, that's a first.
Yeah. It's only recently been released on Switch. It's been out on all the other consoles and PC for a while. It's called Dauntless. Now, this is my kind of online multiplayer game because it's you and 3 other people in your team go out and fight monsters. And you strategize, you wander around, you collect rocks and plants and things like that to help build gear. And you go out and you fight these giant gargantuan creatures. And then you harvest stuff off of them at the end of the mission. You go back, you craft new armor and things like that, and you go back and do it again. And it's really fun. It's got the graphics and the way that it kind of plays. It feels it's got a hint of kind of Fortnite to it. It's very cartoony graphics, very simple graphics, very simple mechanics going into it. But the better you are at understanding those and understanding the enemies and working out how to use the landscape to your advantage, the better you get. So pro players are amazing. I've seen a few, and they can take down these big bosses super quick when they're working as a unit or if they're particularly efficient. And I don't seem too bad at the game, which is pretty good. So I'm enjoying that, which I wasn't expecting. And it was free.
It's also available on PlayStation and Xbox.
Yeah.
Free to play?
Yeah. So it's not aggressive with the so like in-app purchases either. It's just there's a stall, there's the main town that you go back to after each mission. It's where you can sort of like craft new armor, new weapons, bits and pieces, all that sort of stuff. And it's just there off to the side. He's constantly sort of like, hey, come over. But it's beyond that. It's easy. I have chosen to give a bit of money to it because it's actually quite good for creator made content. You can actually donate directly to specific creators of skins for the weapons and the armor and stuff. So it's really good for the community on that side, which I appreciate.
It's got an interesting read on Metacritic. Has an 82 Metascore from critics
Mm-hmm.
and a 4.3 from users. Very unusual you see it go that way. Normally it's the other way.
But
Normally the critics hate it and the fans love it. But
yeah. But it's quite interesting that they've tried to incentivize the meeting town hall, like, with Destiny and with the Division and with Anthem, rest in peace. There's that main hub, and there's never much to really do around there. They've tried to incentivize it and encourage wandering around it by having these experience rings that you go around, and each day they're in 10 new locations and you have to wander around, and it gives you an XP boost and things like that. So there's a lot of nice little things going on. It works well in handheld mode. It looks really nice up on the big screen. In spite of the Switch's lower quality internet connection, I've not had a problem with lag or anything that's kind of, this is so fucking frustrating. It plays nice and smooth for me, and I'm in Kinglake where internet is actually done by carrier pigeon. So it's I'm impressed with the port that and I'm impressed with the game, and it's a good one to just jump in and out of and have a little bit of fun.
Well, if you can find a multiplayer game you like, I say stick to it. I stuck to new people who were playing and had fun with it. The last time I picked it up, I was like, yeah, nah, fuck, over it.
Well, the last multiplayer game that I played was Anthem, and that's now available for $4.
Yeah.
So you can't get cheaper than free.
Yes. Yeah, well, less said about Anthem, the better. They kind of got that one wrong.
I enjoyed a lot about it, but yeah, their post game, nope, no thank you. Turn me off.
I should say, should we move on to one of our more common topics apart from video games? Because I haven't had much time to play video games of late. Yes. I actually spent 3 nights of last week at the Corner Hotel here in Richmond seeing the Lemonheads, Wrestle Rock. But you have to come to one of those shows, by the way. Wrestle Rock is great value. Last end, the show, A Very Wrestle Rock Christmas, was headlined by a current WWE signed wrestler. So Toni Storm, who I think does most of her work on NXT these days. But she actually was in the headline. She was in the main event of Survivor Series in November. And then she was here 3 weeks later in Melbourne. So she is Australian. And it was good to see that kind of talent. I think she doesn't get on TV a whole lot these days in the main event in the WWE. But she should be, because she's insanely talented. And we're not very many places in the world you get to see actual current signed WWE talent that close and personal. And of course, other people like Tennille Taylor, who was in the WWE as Emma, got her start, or used to compete at Wrestle Rock. Elliot Sexton, who's now signed to WWE. Indy Hartwell, now signed to WWE. All these people actually compete at Wrestle Rock. So it's becoming, amongst other local promotions, it's becoming a real incubator for the talent that's actually being signed. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Really, it's a sellout. Their Christmas shows are hilarious. And then on Saturday night, I went to see something very different. I went and saw yet another Pearl Jam tribute band, which was a lot more fun than it had any right to be. But I did the week before get to go and see your mates, one of your favorite directors' latest films, and that was Knives Out, the new film by Rian Johnson.
I saw that too.
And let me just say, my first reaction on walking out of a theater was, how the fuck did this guy, was he just trolling us? I don't like. I know you liked it, but like I was like, I loved everything about Knives Out. It's exactly the kind of film I want to see made more of these days. In the sense, it's not based on another property. It's an original property, it's an original IP from Ryan, written and directed by Ryan Johnson. It's a noirish, Agatha Christie-ish, murder mystery.
Yep.
But done in the present day.
Yep.
And it was insanely entertaining with an amazing cast. And like, this guy needs to stay as fucking far away from film franchises as possible. He came out this week and said he doesn't believe in giving fans what they want or something like that. So, Ryan, stay away from those things. Just stick to your original IP because you're fucking brilliant at it.
That was my thought when he was announced as a director for Star Wars. Really? The guy that directed Brick, Brothers Bloom, and Looper, he's going to do Star Wars? That's going to be very different type of Star Wars, and I'm probably going to love it. And I was absolutely right on all those counts. But he didn't make a good Star Wars movie. But at the same time, what's a good Star Wars movie now? Because early reviews of the Rise of the Skywalker seem to be, it's fan servicey. Like, okay, so now people are saying, oh no, it's what I want isn't what I want. So it's a Star Wars. I've talked about enough.
It's a difficult balancing act. I'll pay. We spent far too long in the last episode talking about the things I hated about. Disliked. So hate's a strong word. That disliked about Ryan's Star Wars film. But it's weird, you sort of see every now and again you see a director in a place and you go, that's an interesting choice. So the other day, I don't know how I ended up. That's right. I was watching a video about why the 1998 Godzilla film sucked. And I thought, did that Godzilla King Kong movie come out yet? Because there was a King Kong movie that came out earlier in the year that I completely ignored. No, it wasn't that. It's coming out next year, of course, Kong vs. Godzilla. And I had a quick look at that and go, oh, that's interesting. What are they doing with that? Where's that at? And the cast sounds ridiculous. But it's been directed by a guy named Adam Wingard. And Adam Wingard is one of these guys where you look him background and go, I don't know that name. You look him up and you go, right.
Now, if I'm right, is this the guy that did the American Netflix of Death Note?
He did. He also did a film called You're Next in 2011, which I fucking loved, by the way. It had an Australian actress in it called Shani Vincent. If you haven't seen You're Next, do see it. He also made VHS in 2012 that I saw at the Melbourne Film Festival, and I really liked that too. I heard people didn't really like the Death Note, American Death Note film, if I'm not mistaken.
The movie itself was actually quite well done, but as a faithful adaptation of the manga series, it was awful, utterly awful.
He also did a remake of Blair Witch that came out 3 years ago, which I don't think I even knew happened. That didn't need to happen. So I've seen two of his films, and actually three of their films. The other one he did was called The Guest. I think that's also a scary movie as well. And you go, they're all super low budget kind of films, or pretty low. But You're Next and VHS was super low budget. And you're like, and they also flat out horror films. Slasher film, horror films. So you go, in the size of a property to go, hi, you've done a couple of very indie horror films that were kind of cool. Here's King Kong and Godzilla. So, prior to this, I know Gareth Edwards did the original Godzilla film, he moved on to a Star Wars film. Before that, we had Peter fucking Jackson doing King Kong a few years ago. You're like, okay, and they're just giving it to this guy. So you do occasionally see people pop up in strange places, but we're far away from Knives Out. Tell me what you thought about Knives Out.
Fucking loved it. And the number one thing that I loved about it was seeing Daniel Craig actually acting and very clearly enjoying the movie that he was in.
Yeah, it's a big change from James Bond, right?
From James Bond, from fucking Cowboys versus Aliens. But practically every movie he's been in since Casino Royale. He always just looks fucking pissed off. I think he's going to kind of become the new Harrison Ford, where he just always looks like he would rather be somewhere else. Of effort. This, he actually acts and is funny and is smart and a well-rounded character with depth and insight, and I want to see more of him. It's like, wow, I forgot that Daniel Craig could actually do this. Lovely. And Chris Evans is brilliant, and the sweaters are on par with Wesley Crusher. Every single element of it. The production design is awesome. The sound design, the cast is all phenomenal. Even Toni Collette, who I have a problem with.
You can leave now. She's a national treasure.
Look, you are just so pro-Australia, it's disgusting.
There are Australian people I could give a shit about, less of a shit about. Toni Collette is a national treasure.
That's one of the reasons why I'm not a citizen.
Watch Muriel's Wedding and tell me it isn't brilliant.
It's not good.
Sacrilege.
Nope. Level head coming true. That's it.
Not just me, by the way. You're in the minority on this one, I'm sure.
I don't care. I'm happy to be in a minority. But yeah, absolutely loved it. And everything about Knives Out, it reminded me of everything about the Brothers Bloom and everything about Brick. The Looper, I really liked it, but it had a lot of flaws, but it was a high concept idea. When you're dealing with time travel, you're always going to miss the mark, just because time travel is kind of impossible to write. Just because there's always going to... But I really I've always loved his style. I really like The Last Jedi. It's the last Star Wars property to be made for someone like me. I cannot wait to see what he does next, and I will be buying Knives Out as soon as I am able, because I want to sit down and just consume it again and again and again.
It's definitely very, very rarely do I want to see a film and go, I think I need to see that film again. I need to see that film again, because there's all sorts of stuff that's going on. I can tell. I didn't notice the first time around because you're so sucked into the story. And I feel like it's definitely a film I will get a lot more out of seeing a second time around. And that is, as I said, exceedingly rare these days for me. I have no interest in owning. I think the last film I saw more than once was Endgame, and that was probably only because it was on the plane. But I agree 100%. That's a rare thing for us. But you're right. Daniel Craig looks like he's having a good time. He's really sinking his teeth into a role. That accent is brilliant.
Yep.
And just to cover off, in case you sort of said, they're like, the cast here is kind of ridiculous. So Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Captain America, Jamie Lee Curtis, fucking amazing.
Yep.
Michael Shannon, one of my favorite, and I think possibly along with Sam Rockwell, one of the most underrated actors going around today. Again, Michael Shannon is incredible. Don Johnson's in there from Miami Vice fame. National treasure Toni Collette. Christopher Plummer.
Yeah.
Catherine Langford plays the daughter. She's Australian as well. Ricky Lindholm. As soon as I saw her, I'm like, I got that Lindholm from Garfunkel and Oates. If you're not familiar with Garfunkel and Oates,
that's right. Yes.
Video songs. And that was Frank Oz is in there as well. His first actual role in a film, like live action film, for a very long time. But I think like the standout performance, aside from Daniel Craig here, is Ana de Armas. I might be pronouncing it incorrectly.
Yes.
Apparently she was in Blade Runner 2049, which is another film, probably the last film you and I both enjoyed.
Yeah.
Apparently she was in the Bond film, and she was also in Yesterday, which I talked about a couple of months ago when I saw it on the plane. She plays the maid, and I guess the protagonist of the film, if there is one aside from Daniel Craig, and she's fucking incredible in this film. Not only is she obviously gorgeous, but I think she's also insanely talented. From
She
her
plays
performances.
her part perfectly in every scene.
She's just the right. I mean, I think potentially this is one of Ryan's strong points. So, interestingly, this is the first Ryan Johnson film I've ever seen that I actually really liked. I always thought Looper was a bit overrated, but he's obviously got a taste for. He's got a knack for casting, in the
Mm-hmm.
sense he's got everybody pitch pitch perfect. Like Jamie Lee Curtis playing that sort of really shrill, uptight sort of patrician sort of character, and Don Johnson being the Trumpian fuckwit husband who's having an affair. Spoilers.
Even Michael Shannon's son, who has maybe
No
10
lines.
words. He just every time it kind of cuts over to him, he just looks perfect for the moment every single time, and the little things that he says, that it's just pitch perfect. It's wonderful. Because he was in
And he's also, it's interesting the little
It.
connections here and there, right? Because he was in the Midnight Special with Michael Shannon. He was
Oh
in
shit!
It.
Yeah, that was him.
He was played Bill in the first It movie,
Mhm.
and I thought he was quite good in that film.
Yeah, agreed.
It goes to show again that like the ridiculous talent he's got at his disposal here, that he can have people like that who a very promising young actor
Mm.
who I think will go on to bigger and better things one day. But
Mhm.
he's just not giving him any lines because he's just got everybody else has got lots of cool shit to say, right? Like,
Yeah.
um,
What
it's
the other thing that I really loved, and we've talked about this in the past, is I'm painfully, annoyingly good at picking endings. I suspected the ending.
I was wondering about myself
Yeah.
afterwards. I knew you were going to go and see it. I'm like, I wonder if George had actually gone and ruined this film for himself.
Yeah. I suspected it, but I was not 100% certain. And as the story wove, it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'm wrong. And I was pleasantly unsure throughout. I did pick it right, but I wasn't certain. I was still happily engaged in the ride, and it's like, oh yeah, cool. So it was a rarity, and it definitely gets an extra few points just for that from me.
So I can't. I mean, I kind of hope they don't make a sequel. I mean, I don't know how well the film's done. I know it's got great critical acclaim.
Mm.
It doesn't really lend itself well to a sequel in the sense of a story. Though the characters, I would be more than happy to spend
Mm.
a few more hours with those characters
Mm.
because they're again very. But this is the kind of thing I think someone like maybe this is what Ryan Johnson can do to make up for what he did to Star Wars. Sorry, quick
What,
dig.
breathe some
This is
fresh
what I want
life
to see.
into it?
Maybe he can be more like Quentin Tarantino from here on, in the sense that he's now got that behind him. He's got the the big studio film done. Hopefully, this film's done well enough with the studios as well that he can actually go on and make original IP
Mm.
and just interesting original IP films. Because I mean, as people might be hearing in my voice over the last few months, I am getting pretty fucking sick of having every freaking possible, previously popular property being twisted and stretched and prequel, sequel. I read tonight they're going to make an Alien TV series now because them films have sucked and they're dead. So I'm like, just let it die. Something fucking different, please.
Mm-hmm.
Pick up. We said in the past many times, pick up something that's kind of didn't really work the first time and try and find a way that's still an interesting idea and make it work. Our go-to has always been the Monster Squad, the Shane
Yeah.
Black directorial debut. Will make a wonderful Stranger Things, it-esque, young adult
Mm-hmm.
film, and that's the kind of film I think lends itself. But stay away from Terminator, Alien. Just it doesn't work. It's dead.
Yeah, I think that it's like Alien, Predator, Terminator. Certainly those three instant ones come to mind. They should be put in movie jail for 15, 20 years, not touched, and just left. And then in 2 decades time, someone can come up to it and go, all right, I've got a fresh idea for this. And it's like, okay, we've had enough time to forget, move on. Tastes have changed. We can see something fresh from this. Okay. Just a note on Knives Out. It was a budget of 40 million, and its current box office is sitting at 165 million. So it's
I think
done
that's
well.
generally considered a plus. That would be considered a profit. Normally, you would double it and say that's where the line is.
Yep.
So, and who knows? I mean, usually once it gets onto streaming and DVD and stuff like that, that'll make a bit more. So that sounds like a fairly successful film.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of thing I would like to see, because Quentin says he's going to do one more and he's going to be done. And right now, as Quentin Tarantino, even bloody Martin Scorsese's got to go to Netflix to get his films funded. So there's not a lot of other writer-directors out there other than maybe Christopher Nolan, who has the kind of cachet to get a new IP with that kind of cast and that kind of budget made. Even then, 40 billion is pretty cheap film making.
Yeah. 100%. But I totally agree with your thoughts on Rian Johnson. I don't think if there is any franchise stuff that he should work on, it should be all his own property stuff, not his ideas on something, because as we saw with Star Wars, he pissed off more people than he pleased. But I think that everyone was able to look at least 5 elements of those movies and go, yeah, that was great. That was great. That was great. The whole movie, it didn't work for me, or it was a mess or whatever. But people, I think, cooler heads can look at it and go, yeah, this guy has talent. He doesn't know how to make a Star Wars movie for me, but he has talent. And he's proven that, I think, with all of his other properties. And him in his own playground, he can tell the story he wants to tell. And, I'd be happy to see Daniel Craig reprieve Monsieur Blanc anywhere else.
Maybe that's the character, a little bit like the Poirot character in Agatha Christie.
Exactly.
He goes on those different adventures. I don't want to see this mob again, but I'd be more than happy to see that character go off and be the gentleman sleuth somewhere else. If that's what Ryan's interested in making. IMDb still says his next thing is his first Star Wars trilogy thing that he was going to do, but I kind of thought that was dead. But
they're certainly not talking about it. That's for sure.
I guess it'll depend. I mean, if The Last Jedi does, 2 billion,
it's going to do well.
It'll do well. Right, there's Endgame. Well, if it does that kind of dollars, then maybe they will get the idea that the appetite's back for more Star Wars, and they might go back to the dust off what they were working on before Solo and go, maybe, but or maybe we'll go back to the drawing board, or maybe we'll dig out and finally get to work on that 4th Indiana Jones film.
No. They can't make a 4th until they make. You're right. You're 4th. Yeah.
Dear, but they're going to do that one day. So might as well get to it before Harrison's dead.
We can hope for lightning striking. I'm not saying who. I'm just saying, there's certain things that I'd be willing to accept rather than an indie 4.
So if.
What's that?
Indiana Jones and, MI5 or something, I don't know.
Oh, God, fuck
Aston Martin of Doom.
No. Don't put stuff like that out into the world.
James Bond, Indiana Jones, crossover, it's happening. You heard it here first.
No. The only crossover that I will talk about and endorse is how fucking Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd, wants to do a crossover with Rick and Morty.
Yo, that's easy enough to arrange.
Fuck yes.
You know who I'm coming around to very slowly is Adam Driver.
I was going to joke and say Nickelback, but
Yeah, there's some things that just ain't gonna happen. I
what's bringing you
kind
around to Adam Driver then?
of like I didn't know before with Force Awakens, um, and as things happen when you get a big film like that, all of a sudden you're everywhere.
Mm.
Um, I think we talked about the dead. Did we talk about the dead don't die last time? I think we maybe did.
Yeah, we did. You weren't a big fan. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I've got
Role
terrible
fun.
internet. So what was that again? It froze.
So Adam Driver has a very dry, droll sense of humor
Mm-hmm.
in that film. But he's in a film called Marriage Story, which I think is on Netflix, but I haven't got around to watching it yet. But he's also in Black Klansman, which I think I talked about probably maybe 12 months ago.
Yeah, you really liked
Fucking
that.
brilliant. But he's this week on Amazon Prime. I got around to watching his latest film, well, one of his more recent films, The Report,
Okay.
which is idealistic Senate staffer
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Jones, it's an original name, tasked by his boss to lead an investigation into the CIA's post 9/11 detention and interrogation program uncovers shocking secrets. And Adam Driver plays the titular Daniel Jones. Annette Bening plays his boss, Senator Dianne Feinstein. John Hamm is in it as well as a CIA agent. Corey Stoll pops up at one point in time. Interestingly, Buffalo Bill himself, Ted Levine, he's in it quite regularly as well, which is like, you look at him for a few minutes and go, hang on, I know that guy from somewhere before you put it all together. But this is I guess if you're a bit of a politics junkie like me, you're going to find this very entertaining little film. And
Okay.
what I really like is Adam Driver's sort of journey as a character from being, a fairly stoic, run-of-the-mill public servant working for this senator. He gets handed a fairly unpopular to run this investigation into the CIA, and you sort of see his emotional involvement in what's gone on and getting to the truth really deepen as the film actually goes on, and you can actually see it very prominently in his performance, the way his character transitions. I mean, some people might find that a little bit lazy or a little bit obvious, but I mean, as somebody who's actually not very good at analyzing film, I kind of enjoyed it going, oh, I can see what you're doing here. I can see what the character, he's like, you see what you're trying to tell me now. Because like, he's like, when he starts out, he's quite softly spoken and professional. And as he goes on, as he's briefing the senator about stuff that's going on and he's finding out in his reports, he becomes very much more loud and sort of in people's face about it and very emotional. And you're sort of like, yeah, I can see this is happening, right? You can tell the story you're telling. You're not telling me what's happening. You're showing me what's happening in how performing. It's written and directed by Scott Z. Burns. There's a name you see around the place occasionally. He's been kicking around mainly as a writer, producer for a while. He wrote Contagion, which is actually...
I liked Contagion.
Doesn't do a lot of directing, I think, but he directed a film in 2013 called Sex Scientist, which is, a good place to start.
Okay.
But he's just one of those names you'll see kicking around the place as someone who's on the inside. I think this is probably his first sort of high-profile directorial effort. It's really quite entertaining, quite engrossing. I guess, like I said, if you aren't into politics, if you aren't old enough to remember what was going on back then, it becomes a little bit more esoteric and less interesting to you. But I don't know, as someone who was around at the time and quite aware, I feel like, of what was going on, and just like, when you see people go, oh, shock horror, the CIA was just like fucking torturing the shit out of people, and you're gonna go, yeah, so that's what they fucking do, right? Like, who's surprised by this, right? It's like when they go, oh my God, there were no WMDs in Iraq, and you're like, yeah, and there never were going to be any WMDs in Iraq. Well, who thought they were really going to? Is anybody really surprised? It's
we got him. Wait, didn't we go there for weapons, not him? Shh, quiet.
Don't mention the man behind the curtain. So the world's become so ridiculous now, where Trump's being impeached and like 50% of Americans think it's a conspiracy or something.
Well, just hearing from Amber.
The world's so ridiculous now. But you look at Amber, or another friend of mine today was getting stuck into me when I said, she's like, why are they picking on him? And I'm like, because he's a crook. What did he do wrong? And I'm like, yeah. Part of me really wanted to say the only way you could possibly be asking that question was through complete and utter, willful ignorance. But I kind of want to stay friends with this person, so I just kind of tried to peel it a little bit. Played him with a straight bat, and it didn't go down well with them, so I kind of stepped away. It's not my argument, as they say, not my president, so I don't care.
Not my war. Yep.
But that said, I am thinking about trying to find a bookie who will let me put a bet down, but give me odds on there not being a United States 20 years from now.
Oh.
25 maybe. But things are so ridiculous now. You almost look glasses. Do you remember when the best thing we had to worry about was the CIA torturing random people in foreign countries? Those were the days, weren't they? Good old George W. Bush.
You can't help but kind of think of the Cold War and go, that was better, wasn't it?
At least we know who the enemy was. It wasn't one of ours.
Yeah, and everyone's dirty laundry was kept secret instead of just blasted on Twitter by the country's leaders.
But it's ridiculous now that this kind of thing, should be still, this kind of story or this kind of film should be quite high profile and quite scandalous. Should be the kind of thing that gets people talking and going, well, we let that happen 15 years ago. How do we know, shouldn't we be scandalized by that? Shouldn't we be worried about the fact that we let that happen? And how do we know it's not continuing to happen today or can't happen again? Because, terrorist attack happened and they felt the need. They could. But as it is, it's buried on Amazon Prime and no one cares. But I would strongly recommend checking it out if you like politics, if that's the kind of film you enjoy, if you like something like an actor.
I would like to call out one of the in development projects from Scott Burns, because the name got me, and then the brief synopsis got me again. The Professor, the Bikini Model, and the Suitcase Full of Trouble. It's a divorced British physicist gets in over his head when he meets a young, attractive Czech bikini model through an online dating site.
I would go. It sounds like something they would have made 40, 50 years ago with like Barbara Streisand in a bikini or something, and like one of those Carry On films.
Yeah. Oh, see, now that's a series that they could revitalize for the modern era.
In the Me Too era, I kind of doubt it, unless you rebooted it with like Melissa McCarthy and Kate McKinnon chasing Chris Hemsworth in tight underpants or something.
Yeah, just role reversal. It's called Carry On, The Revenge.
It writes itself.
See,
that's what we need. That's what's going to empower women. It's just recasting women in men's roles.
Of course, it is.
That's going to work really well. I'm so glad that no one listens to this show.
You never know; those Russian bots may have genders.
They made, you never know when you might end up somewhere and they go, so and so recorded a podcast 5 years ago. They're like James Gunn or something. Like, he made a joke about me too. He's getting fired.
How dare he make a joke about something that's funny?
It's where we are these days. But I'm going to see Star Wars tomorrow night at IMAX.
Oh, you're braving it this early on in the release. Goodness me.
It's important to see it early in the release because otherwise someone will spoil it.
The good guys will win.
That's true, but I mean, they're always gonna like someone spoiled the Force Awakens for me the day before I saw it. There are people just going around on random Facebook statuses, cutting and pasting paragraphs explaining the plot. It wasn't even about Star Wars. It could be about anything else, and they would just go around doing it randomly everywhere to ruin it for you. So I've
Professional
had
trolls.
too many films spoiled for me that way. So I'm gonna be like, no, I'm going to do everything I can to avoid that happening to me this time. So I have to see it early. That might have been why we saw Endgame on opening night.
Yeah. I have no interest to actually go and see this at the cinema. I know that I will get around to seeing it in the cinema, but I sure as shit ain't seeing it this side of Christmas.
But, like I said, I would think it's going to be better without spoilers, no matter how mediocre I may think it is. So even if it's great, and I think I would have enjoyed. I actually enjoyed The Force Awakens, and I think I would have enjoyed it more had I not known about the twist at the end. And we know it's JJ. He has one speed, and it's twist at the end speed. So
he has two speeds: twist at the end and lens flare.
Lens flare. Those combined, their powers combined.
That's going to be his next project,
IMAX,
Captain Planet.
IMAX the other night.
What did you see at IMAX?
I would enjoy that. Who would you cast as Captain Planet? Will Smith? He looks good in blue.
Oh, I don't know. Ryan Reynolds, just because everyone's casting him in everything because people find Ryan Reynolds funny, and he's basically the only saving grace of Six Underground, the new Michael Bay movie on Netflix.
You watched that?
Yep. It's a mess.
Did you lose a bet?
No, I was just sitting on the couch and kind of lost the will to move.
Speaking of losing bets, I have someone asked me today if I was going to watch Cats. The embargo has been lifted on Cats, the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical turned film. And it sounds like they might potentially have missed the mark a little.
Yeah, it's getting lambasted, shall we say? Yeah, sorry for the internet, ladies and gentlemen. We may have lost Travis. There we go.
We're back. There we go. I don't know, like it's seriously is it like someone sort of like on a bicycle somewhere.
He's like
just to go through the Reddit thread on the Cats review embargo having been lifted, the Boston Globe says, "My eyes are burning. Oh God, my eyes."
I mean, I don't know.
Can you make a movie so bad that the Academy takes back? So I'm going to read a few more. So Collider says, "Can you make a movie so bad the Academy takes back your Best Director Oscar?" Asking Tom Hooper. The Beat says, "Cats is the worst thing to happen to cats since dogs." Slash Film says, "There's a thin line between idiocy and genius, and Cats pukes a hairball on it and rubs its ass all over it." Vulture says, "To assess Cats as good or bad feels like the entirely wrong axis on which to see it. It is, with all affection, a monstrosity." Vanity Fair says, "It's an ugly stray who smells bad and should not be invited into your home, certainly. And yet it is its own kind of living creature, where you've at least some kind of some basic compassion. It's about as good as it gets." It says, "Fans of stage musical may swoon, but others will be severely allergic." Bleeding Cool says, "Cats is a strange beast to begin with, but the combination of strange CGI makes the transition from stage to screen even worse." Screen Junkie says, "A spectacular disaster. This movie feels like a prank, but I don't know on whom." I don't think we can go past the Boston Globe. "My eyes, oh God, my eyes."
Yeah.
But
honestly, is anyone surprised by this?
Well, anyone who saw the trailer, I thought the trailer looked awful, but
Yeah.
I don't like musicals a lot. I don't particularly like, I think specifically, Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals very much. I don't think they translate the film very well. They never really have. The person who sent me the link to these reviews is a big fan of Cats, and I asked her, I said, what were your thoughts when they announced them? Being it was one of her favorite musicals, she sort of said, I wasn't holding my breath, considering what they did to Phantom, which is my all-time favorite. So, from a out-and-out fan of the actual musical, I don't think anyone was hoping for a lot.
Yeah. I think this is probably queuing up to be the biggest box office flop of 2019, I would imagine.
I wonder how much they spent on it.
That is a question.
I mean, if it costs $40 million, like Knives Out, then maybe they're okay, because always people who saw Cats 30 years ago will turn up and go memories and sing along. But if they spend $150 million on it, then they might be in trouble.
So, well, you tied this into bets. You still have a bet to pick up on. Grease. I could be a bastard.
We'll see it. When there's a sing-along session, you find me a sing-along session, I'll go.
Well, you know what? If it's easier to go to Cats, you can always do that instead.
I can do that if it gets me. I offered this over a year ago, people. I said, I can't remember what it was, but I offered. I said, yeah, I broke my ankle. Some people would say deliberately. Others, including my doctor, would disagree with that. But I think I said there was some other thing. I said I can go to this instead, and you said no. So, but if I can go to Cats, I mean, maybe I can. If I can find a willing victim to come along with me, it might get me off the hook. But yes, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. I think I'd have to go to see it at the drive-in though.
Okay, so I'm just having a quick cross reference. Oh, so I think that so Cats has an estimated budget of 95 million. Terminator Dark Fate had an estimated budget of a maximum of about 196 million. It made 260 million to date. So the big question is, will Cats manage to make 260 million just overall? But
which would be a profit.
If it does, that's a profit, and percentage-wise, it still makes it more of a success than Terminator. So Terminator looks like it's probably going to be the big box office flop.
I guess it
shame.
won't be as big as that. It won't be as big as that because it just didn't cost as much. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm going to say no, it won't make 260 million. Cats, that is. It's got headwinds. It's dated. Cats property has probably years past its use by date. I mean, you don't see, I remember, in the 80s, Cats was the musical to see. And that's a long time ago now. I can't remember the last time it played at a major theatre, at least in Melbourne. And Melbourne does have a lot of big musicals. So I think the property's dated and it doesn't have the freshness. It doesn't have the cachet of, say, Phantom of the Opera has, which I guess a little bit more famous. So it's old. It doesn't have quite the brand cachet. And I just, it's also got the headwinds of the fact that it's now going to have horrible reviews to accompany its terrifying and horrible trailer.
And everyone's just going to be going to see Star Wars as well.
That too. And people I guess the people who are going to see Cats are probably not going to be lining up for Star Wars.
Well, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, they're the kind of the parents' age, the family age. Show younger kids like, oh, which one of these trailers do you like most? They're probably going to say Star Wars.
This is just making me think that how long is it until we see Star Wars, the Broadway musical, Caravan of Courage, the musical. But look, I think it's got the headwinds of. I think that people, might go and see it. If you're in the mood for a film and you don't want to see Star Wars, this might be the one you go and see instead. But look, it's got a big cast. It's got lots of famous
I'm
people.
curious. Okay, yeah, I want to go to the cinema, but I don't want to go and watch a good movie. I want to go into a quiet screen. Cats. Yes. That's perfect.
I mean, more like I want a story that I can enjoy without pew pew pew.
That's fair. That's
and it's
fair.
not written for children. That's what will get people into it. But I think it's more likely to people go and see it because it's got Taylor Swift in it, and Idris Elba and James Corden, and
it's got a hell of a name cast.
So that's it. Rebel Wilson's in it, I think.
Ian McKellen.
It's huge, right? So I don't think it. I feel like I would go. My guess would be 150 to 180 million for this.
Probably.
If it got to 260, I think the producers right now would be very happy.
Yeah, I reckon so.
You get Terminator. I mean, Dark Fate, for all its whatever it was, it got quite good reviews.
That's the thing. It's if this movie had come out after, instead of Terminator 3 or any of the other ones, it would probably, the franchise would still be in a very healthy state, because this is definitely better than all the other Terminator movies that came after Terminator 2. It's just people have wised up finally and gone, no, you know what? My faith isn't worth your time. And it's a shame because it does a good job.
But yeah, it's interesting. I think you're right, though. I think maybe Terminator might be the flop of the year, just on money terms. But I think though you're right. People were talking Cats as in the best conversation for Best Picture. I think originally, a while ago.
Yeah, well, you look at the cast, you look at the director, and all of that legacy. There's a lot of success there, and
musicals do well.
Yeah, this ain't gonna do well.
No, I don't think so. Not with those kind of reviews. But anyone who saw the trailer shouldn't be surprised. But it is interesting. It's yet another example of them trying to go, well, here's a property that was popular 30 years ago. No one's made a film with it yet. Let's just, like a good idea at the time.
You just wait. They'll suddenly announce, oh, yes, because of the success of Cats, we are now doing a movie version of Starlight Express.
Is that a musical?
Yeah, it's another Andrew Lloyd Webber one, I think.
Yeah, I really have. I would think I think I've actually kind of undercut my I don't like musicals cred. The guys I work with, every time I say it, they just look at me and go, yeah, you say that, but I don't really think you do not like musicals. Like every other time you talk about when you go, yeah, well, this one I actually kind of liked. I liked Chicago. I thought that was all right. I didn't mind the producers.
The original, not the remake.
Both. I meant the live one, not the film. The actual live production of the producers. Yeah. And I like to Come From Away, and I might have bought tickets to see it.
I should say nothing. Now, I'm going to wrap up the show now because our internet is being really shitty, and it's probably horrible for the Russian bots. But just wanted to make sure, was there anything else you desperately needed to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we're good. Okay. Oh, one quick one. Sorry, very quickly. It probably might be 2 or 3 weeks before we get to record again because I am going on a brief holiday, a tour, if you will, of the South Pacific.
He's doing signings in the South Pacific.
There'll be personal appearances for any of our fans who happen to be in the area. If you're in Namibia, I know our Namibian contingent. Hello. But one thing, if you're looking for something entertaining to watch on Netflix over the coming few weeks, and let's face this time, I would highly, highly recommend the series, The Movies That Made Us.
Oh, that looks quite good.
You might have seen the other series. It's based by the same people who made The Toys That Made Us. There've been 2 seasons of that so far. where they do like He-Man and all that kind of bizzo and the Star Wars, Star Trek toys and stuff like that. So the Toys That Made Us is great, and I've watched both seasons of that. This is the first season of the Movies That Made Us. So it's 4 maybe 55-minute long mini documentaries about the making and genesis and the making of Die Hard, Home Alone, Dirty Dancing, and Ghostbusters.
Ooh.
So this is very much targeted at my audience, my age group, coming of age in the late 80s. And I found it quite fascinating. I think I knew a reasonable amount about the making of Ghostbusters and a reasonable amount about the making of Die Hard, but I knew very little about the making of Home Alone being made. Crazy considering how successful it was. And despite the fact that Dirty Dancing, people are still shocked to this day when I tell them that was a punishment movie on this podcast at one point in time. Me. Despite the fact thinking it wasn't a very good film, quite an entertaining story about how that film came to be, and some of the background stories about making it. So if you love any of those films, and I love 3 of those movies.
Agreed.
So I found it very, very entertaining. If you just like little docos, easy to consume docos about how films are made, what goes on behind the scenes, it's a fantastic little treat for fans like me and maybe you who I know you're a big fan of some of those films, so you might enjoy it as well.
All right. Well,
100% shade friendly.
Yeah. On that note, as it is the season of Christmas, Die Hard, Christmas movie or not?
Yes. I think the rule is you have to say Christmas a certain amount of times in a film to qualify. And I think Die Hard technically falls one short if you believe the people behind Cinema Sins on YouTube. But I think it qualifies. There is enough Christmas in the film to qualify as a Christmas movie. I don't think you need to have Santa Claus in the movie for it to be about Christmas.
Yeah, agreed. Because
and every time I see that film now, I saw it on Tuesday night at IMAX. I saw Die Hard again this week. First time I've seen it on the big screen. It's a wonderful experience. And every time I see that film now, and Alan Rickman says, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker," I just think of a time and try and imagine that conversation you had with him where you tried to get him to say that to you in a shoe store or something.
Yep. I've ruined that sequence for you.
I got sick of being asked that question. See, personally, I would have asked him to say, and call off Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Or, why a spoon, cousin? Because it'll hurt more.
These some great lines. But every time, I can't think Die Hard now without thinking of George confronting Alan Rickman, poor old Alan Rickman, in a shoe store in London.
He was lovely. He didn't mind.
Such a great actor,
though. On that note, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great Christmas. Have a very fantastic New Year. And we'll see you.
Have a crazy Kwanzaa and a terrific Tet.
There we go. Till next time, good night.
Bye.
Ask me how I am. Tell me what's beneath this sleep. There's something else in place, and in the silence, those words will keep. Will keep. is taking pieces bit by bit. The more we're shown, the less we know. Helpless by all and after still, we'll keep. What is your truth? Has it been blurred by time? Has it seeped away from you? What is